My name is Simone Carter. I'm 29 years old, and until 3 weeks ago, I was just another ER doctor working the night shift at St. Luke's Medical Center in Detroit, Michigan. At least, that's what my husband Marcus and everyone else at the hospital believed. The truth is far more complicated. My mother is Dr. Evelyn Carter, and she's the chairwoman of St. Luke's Board of Directors. But when I graduated from medical school at the University of Michigan 6 years ago, I made her a promise. I would build my career on my own merit, using my first name and my father's last name, Simone Carter, instead of announcing to the world that I was Evelyn Montgomery Carter's daughter. If you want to lead in medicine one day, my mother told me during my residency, you need to understand what it's like to be at the bottom. You need to earn the respect of your colleagues, not inherit it from my reputation. So, I started as a resident in the ER, working brutal 24-hour shifts, eating vending machine food, and living in a tiny studio apartment on the east side. It was during my second year of residency that I met Marcus Bennett. He was a rising star in orthopedic surgery, charming, ambitious, and devastatingly handsome. We met during a trauma case where a construction worker had fallen 3 stories. "You've got good instincts," he told me after we stabilized the patient. "Most residents panic during major traumas. You stayed calm." "I don't have time to panic," I replied, pulling off my gloves. "These patients need me focused." He smiled. "I like that. Most doctors I know are in it for the prestige. You actually care." We started dating 2 months later. For the first time in my life, I felt like someone saw me for who I was, not for my mother's legacy. Marcus didn't know about my family connection to the hospital, and I wanted to keep it that way. I wanted him to love Simone, the ER doctor, not Simone, the board chairwoman's daughter. My mother had reservations from the start. During one of our rare family dinners at her Bloomfield Hills estate, she pulled me aside. "Are you certain about this man, Simone?" she asked, her voice low. "I've reviewed his file. He's ambitious, perhaps too ambitious." "Mom, you review everyone's file," I said, laughing it off. "Marcus loves me for who I am. He doesn't even know you're my mother. Isn't that what you wanted? For me to prove myself independently?" She sighed, touching my cheek. "Yes, but I also wanted you to be wise about who you trust. Just promise me you'll be careful." I promised, but I didn't really listen. Marcus and I got married a year later in a simple ceremony at a small church in Midtown Detroit. We couldn't afford anything fancy on our combined resident and junior surgeon salaries, or so we thought. We moved into a modest 2-bedroom apartment in Royal Oak, splitting rent and bills down the middle. Life was good, or so it seemed. Marcus complained often about money. "With my skills, we should be living in Birmingham, not Royal Oak," he'd say, referring to one of Detroit's wealthiest suburbs. "I don't understand why Dr. Montgomery Carter hasn't promoted me to the advanced surgical team. I'm the best orthopedic surgeon under 40 inches this hospital." I'd bite my tongue every time he mentioned my mother's name, never revealing our connection. Everything started to change about 6 months ago when Regina Hayes joined St. Luke's as the chief operating officer. She came from old Detroit money, the kind of family that had mansions on Lakeshore Drive and boxes at the Detroit Symphony Orchestra. She made sure everyone knew it too, always name-dropping which country club her family belonged to or which senator was her godfather. At first, I didn't pay much attention. Marcus mentioned that he was working with Regina on some equipment procurement projects, staying late at the hospital for budget meetings. As an ER doctor working nights, our schedules rarely aligned, so I didn't think much of it. But then the signs started appearing, late-night texts that he'd quickly hide when I walked into the room. The smell of expensive perfume, the kind I could never afford on my salary, lingering on his scrubs. Receipts for dinners at restaurants we'd never been to together, places with wine lists that cost more than our monthly rent. "Marcus, we need to talk about something," I said one night when he came home at 2 a.m., claiming he'd been in surgery. "Who is Regina to you?" His face flashed with surprise before settling into annoyance. "She's my colleague, Simone. We're working on a major equipment contract. It requires a lot of coordination." "Equipment contracts that require dinner at the Whitney House? That require you to come home smelling like Chanel No. 5? You're being paranoid," he said coldly. "Maybe if you worked normal hours instead of these endless night shifts, you'd understand what it takes to advance in this hospital." Not all of us can be content being ER residents forever. I'm not a resident anymore, Marcus. I'm an attending physician. Same difference, he muttered, and that's when I knew. The man I married didn't respect what I did. He never had. The truth revealed itself 2 weeks later. I was reviewing trauma cases in the hospital library when I heard voices in the adjacent conference room. The door wasn't fully closed, and I recognized them immediately. "When are you going to leave that ER, nobody?" Regina's voice dripped with contempt. "Marcus, you're destined for great things. You need a partner who can match your ambition, someone with real connections." My heart stopped. "Soon, baby," Marcus replied. "I just need to time it right. I can't have drama affecting my standing at the hospital. Once this equipment deal goes through and I get my bonus, I'll end things with Simone. She won't even see it coming." "Good," Regina purred, "because my family's hospital foundation is prepared to offer you a position as chief of orthopedic surgery at their new facility in Grosse Pointe. Salary starting at $850,000, plus bonuses. You deserve better than this mediocre hospital anyway. What about the current equipment contract we're pushing through here? Let's just say that the medical equipment company my cousin runs is very grateful for your influence in steering Street Luke's procurement board. The commission alone will net us $200,000. I felt sick. Not only was my husband cheating on me, but they were running a kickback scheme, funneling hospital money to Regina's family's company in exchange for personal profit. I stood there, frozen, my whole world crumbling. 5 years of hiding my identity, of building a life with someone who I thought loved me for who I was, and it was all a lie. That night, I waited for Marcus at our apartment. When he walked in at 11 p.m., I was sitting on the couch, still in my scrubs. "We need to talk," I said quietly. "About what?" He didn't even look concerned. "About Regina. About your future plans. About the equipment kickback scheme." His face went pale. "What are you talking about?" "I heard you, Marcus. In the conference room. All of it." He was silent for a moment, then his expression hardened. "Fine. You want the truth?" "Yes, I'm with Regina now. And yes, we're moving forward together. You want to know why? Enlighten me." "Because you're going nowhere, Simone. You're an ER doctor who'll never make more than $250,000 a year, working brutal hours, dealing with drug addicts and gunshot wounds. Regina can give me the life I deserve. Her family has connections to every major hospital system in Michigan. She can open doors you can't even imagine. And our vows? Our marriage?" He laughed bitterly. "Be realistic. You're a great person, Simone, but you're not enough. I need someone who can help me build an empire, not someone content with saving random people's lives in an ER." The door opened, and Regina walked in like she owned the place, carrying shopping bags from Neiman Marcus. "Did you tell her?" she asked Marcus, not even acknowledging me. "I was just explaining how things are going to work," Marcus said. Regina turned to me with a smug smile. "Look, Simone, no hard feelings. But Marcus and I operate on a different level. My family's foundation is building a $300 million medical complex. Marcus will be running the orthopedic department. What can you offer him? Night shifts and student loan debt." Something inside me clicked. 6 years of hiding, of proving myself, of living modestly while my mother's estate sat empty except for her and the staff. 6 years of wanting Marcus to love me for me, not for what my family had. And here they were, throwing my integrity in my face. I pulled out my phone and dialed a number I rarely used. "Hi, Mom. Yes, it's Simone. Remember how you wanted to meet Marcus properly? I think it's time. Can you clear your morning tomorrow? I'd like you to meet my husband and his business partner at the hospital. Your office, 9 a.m. Marcus's confident expression cracked. "Mom, what are you talking about?" I smiled at him, the same calm smile I used when treating critical patients in the ER. "Oh, Marcus, did I forget to mention? Dr. Evelyn Montgomery Carter, the chairwoman of Street Luke's board of directors, is my mother. I've been using my father's surname my entire career." Regina stumbled backward, her shopping bags dropping to the floor. "That's impossible. You're an ER doctor. You live in Royal Oak." "Yes, I do. Because I wanted to earn my position honestly, not trade on my family name, unlike some people who use their family connections for kickback schemes." I turned back to my phone. Mom, you'll want to have legal and compliance there too. We have a lot to discuss regarding equipment procurement fraud. Marcus fell into the nearest chair, the color completely drained from his face. Simone, wait. We can talk about this. There has to be a way to work this out. Work what out, Marcus? The affair? The fraud? Or the fact that you just told me I'm not good enough because I actually care about patients instead of profit? Regina found her voice. You can't prove anything. My family has lawyers that will bury you. Your family, I said calmly, is about to face federal healthcare fraud investigations. I may be just an ER doctor, but I know exactly who to call at the Department of Health and Human Services. See you both tomorrow at 9. I walked out of my own apartment that night and drove to my mother's estate in Bloomfield Hills. She was waiting for me at the door, already knowing what had happened from my phone call. I'm sorry, sweetheart, she said, pulling me into a hug. You warned me, I whispered. You told me to be careful. I hoped I was wrong. Let's make sure they face consequences for what they've done, not just to you, but to this hospital and its patients. The next morning, I arrived at St. Luke's at 8:30 a.m. The hospital was buzzing with unusual activity. Word had somehow spread that the board chairwoman was calling an emergency meeting, and people were whispering in the hallways. My colleague, Dr. Patricia from the ER, approached me. Simone, is it true? Are you really Dr. Montgomery Carter's daughter? Yes, I said simply. I am. But why work in the ER? Why not take an easier position? Because the ER is where you learn what medicine really means. It's not about prestige or money. It's about being there when people need you most, regardless of who they are or what they can pay. At 8:55, Marcus and Regina arrived on the executive floor. Marcus looked like he hadn't slept, his eyes bloodshot and his surgical scrubs wrinkled. Regina was trying to maintain her composure, but I could see her hands shaking as she clutched her designer purse. Good morning, I greeted them from outside my mother's office. Dr. Montgomery Carter is expecting you. Simone, please, Marcus whispered, approaching me. Can we just talk privately for 5 minutes? There has to be a way to fix this. Fix what, Marcus? Your affair, your fraud, or your complete lack of integrity? Regina stepped forward, her voice sharp despite her obvious nerves. Let's be professional about this, Simone. We're all adults. Mistakes were made on all sides. Oh, this will be very professional, I assured her. That's why legal counsel and compliance officers are joining us. The door to my mother's office opened. My mother stood there, imposing in her white doctor's coat over a tailored navy suit, her credentials and achievements lining the wall behind her. Please, come in, she said, her voice carrying the authority of someone who'd run operating rooms and boardrooms for 30 years. Inside the office, the head of legal affairs and the chief compliance officer were already seated, along with 2 people I didn't recognize in dark suits. Dr. Bennett, Miss Hayes, my mother began, gesturing to the chairs facing her desk. I believe you know my daughter, Dr. Simone Carter. What you may not know is that she's been documenting certain irregularities in our equipment procurement process. Marcus's voice cracked. Dr. Montgomery Carter, I can explain. Explain what, exactly? My mother opened a file on her desk. Explain the emails we've recovered showing coordination between you and Miss Hayes to steer a $12 million equipment contract to Hayes Medical Supply, a company owned by Miss Hayes's cousin. Explain the kickback arrangement where you'd receive 2% commission. Explain the dinners, the trips, all billed to hospital expense accounts. Regina's professional mask finally shattered. This is ridiculous. My family has supported this hospital for generations. You can't seriously believe we'd risk everything for some small-time scheme. One of the suited individuals stood up. Miss Hayes, I'm Special Agent Morrison from the FBI's Healthcare Fraud Division. Your family's support is precisely why we've been investigating this matter for the past 3 months. Dr. Carter's testimony yesterday provided the final pieces we needed. My mother continued. The Hayes Medical Supply equipment you were pushing would have cost our hospital 40% more than comparable products, with inferior quality that could have endangered patient safety. That's not just fraud, it's reckless endangerment. Marcus slumped in his chair. I was just trying to build a future. The salary of a junior surgeon, it's not enough to live the life I wanted. You were making $320,000 a year, I said, my voice steady despite the anger burning in my chest. We weren't struggling, Marcus. You were just greedy. Regina turned on Marcus. This is your fault. You said your wife was nobody, that she had no connections. You said this would be easy money. Don't you dare blame me, Marcus shot back. This was your family's scheme from the start. You brought me in. Enough, my mother said sharply. You're both suspended effective immediately pending criminal investigation. Security will escort you to collect your personal belongings. Your hospital credentials are revoked, and we're pursuing full legal action for fraud, breach of fiduciary duty, and conspiracy. You can't do this, Regina protested. My family will destroy this hospital. We'll pull all our foundation funding. My mother smiled coldly. Miss Hayes, your family's foundation is currently under IRS investigation for tax fraud. Their assets will likely be frozen within the week. As for your threats, Street, Luke's has existed for 127 years. We'll survive without your family's tainted money. Agent Morrison added, You both have the right to remain silent. I suggest you exercise that right and contact attorneys. We'll be in touch to schedule formal questioning. Security officers appeared at the door. As they prepared to escort Marcus and Regina out, Marcus turned to me one last time. Simone, I'm sorry. I did love you once. I just got caught up in wanting more. I looked at him, this man I'd shared my life with, and felt nothing but pity. The saddest part, Marcus, is that I loved you enough to give up my family name, to live a modest life, to work night shifts and eat ramen noodles, all to prove that you loved me for who I was, not what I could give you, and you failed that test spectacularly. I know, he whispered. No, I don't think you do. You didn't just fail as a husband, you failed as a physician. We took an oath to do no harm, and you were willing to put inferior equipment in this hospital to line your pockets. You were willing to compromise patient care for money. That's unforgivable. As security led them away, Regina turned one last time. Was it worth it? Destroying our lives just to prove a point? This isn't about proving a point, I replied. It's about accountability, something neither of you understand. When the door closed, my mother came around her desk and hugged me. I'm proud of you, sweetheart, not for exposing them, but for maintaining your integrity through all of this. I should have listened to you from the start. No, she said firmly. You needed to walk your own path, and you did it with grace and honor. That's worth more than any title or inheritance. Over the following weeks, the scandal erupted across Detroit's medical community. The FBI's investigation uncovered that Regina's family had been running similar schemes at 4 other hospitals, defrauding healthcare systems of over $50 million. Marcus agreed to cooperate with federal prosecutors in exchange for a reduced sentence, testifying against the Hayes family. The medical board revoked Marcus's license pending criminal proceedings. Regina's family foundation collapsed, with several members facing federal charges. Their promised new medical complex in Grosse Pointe never materialized. I kept working in the ER, but the secret was out. Colleagues who had barely acknowledged me before suddenly wanted to have lunch and ask about career advancement. I politely declined most invitations, keeping close to the friends who had respected me when I was just Dr. Carter. Night shift ER attending. 3 months after that devastating morning, I received a letter forwarded to the hospital. It was from Marcus, written from the county detention center where he was being held pending trial. Dear Simone, I know I have no right to your time or attention, but I need you to understand something. When I met you, I genuinely fell in love with your strength, your compassion, your dedication. But I let Regina and her promises of wealth corrupt what we had. I told myself I deserved more, that you were holding me back. The truth is, you were the only real thing in my life, and I destroyed it, chasing status and money that was never going to make me happy. I don't expect forgiveness. I just want you to know that my biggest regret isn't losing my career or facing prison time. It's losing you and betraying everything you stood for. You deserved better than me. Marcus. I folded the letter and placed it in my desk drawer without responding. Some apologies come too late, and some bridges, once burned, can never be rebuilt. 6 months later, during the hospital's annual board meeting, my mother made an announcement that surprised everyone, including me. As many of you know, she began, addressing the full board and department heads, I've served as chairwoman of Street Luke's for 15 years. It's been an honor to help guide this institution. However, it's time to pass leadership to the next generation. She smiled at me. Seated in the audience, I'm pleased to announce that effective next month, Dr. Simone Carter will be joining the board of directors and serving as our new Director of Emergency Medicine and Patient Advocacy. The room erupted in applause. I was stunned. Later, in her office, I asked, "Mom, are you sure?" "I'm only 29. "I'm sure," she replied. "You've proven something that many physicians twice your age haven't learned. You understand that medicine isn't about personal glory or financial gain. It's about serving patients with integrity and honor. That's the kind of leadership this hospital needs." "What about people who'll say I only got the position because you're my mother?" "Let them talk. You've earned this position through 6 years of exemplary service. Anyone who reviews your patient outcomes, your teaching evaluations, your dedication to this hospital will see that. And if they don't, that says more about them than it does about you." I accepted the position, but I didn't give up my ER shifts. I still work 2 nights a week in the emergency department, treating patients regardless of their ability to pay, teaching residents, and staying connected to the reason I became a doctor in the first place. In my new office, I keep a small reminder of everything that happened. It's my old ER badge, the one that just says, Dr. Carter, Emergency Medicine, framed next to my new credentials. When people ask me why I keep it, I tell them this story. I tell them about a young woman who chose to hide her family name to prove herself, about a marriage that crumbled under the weight of greed and ambition, about how sometimes the greatest losses lead to the most important lessons. Because in the end, true success in medicine, or in life, isn't measured by your salary, your title, or your family connections. It's measured by the integrity with which you practice, the patients whose lives you touch, and the values you refuse to compromise, even when it costs you everything. As for Marcus, he was sentenced to 3 years in federal prison and ordered to pay $500,000 in restitution. Regina received 5 years, and her family's foundation was permanently dissolved. The Hayes family lost most of their wealth in legal fees and settlements. I don't take joy in their downfall. I simply recognize it as the natural consequence of choosing shortcuts over integrity, appearances over substance, and money over meaning. Every morning, when I walk through Street Luke's hallways and colleagues greet me with genuine respect, not because of my last name but because of the work I do. I know that every moment of those 6 years of anonymity was worth it. I created a new hospital motto that now hangs in our lobby. Excellence is not inherited. It's earned through service, integrity, and compassion. 1 year after everything happened, I was treating a trauma patient in the ER when a young resident approached me nervously. "Dr. Carter, I just wanted to say thank you. I heard your story about starting from the bottom even though you didn't have to. It gave me courage to pursue emergency medicine even though my family wanted me to choose something more lucrative." I smiled at her. "What's your name?" "Dr. Jessica Williams." "Well, Dr. Williams, medicine needs people who choose it for the right reasons. Welcome to the ER." As she walked away to check on her patients, I realized that this was the real legacy. Not exposing fraud, not getting justice, but inspiring the next generation to value integrity over ambition, patience over profit, and character over credentials. That night, driving home to my new condo in Midtown Detroit, I passed by the Royal Oak apartment where Marcus and I had lived. New people lived there now, starting their own stories, making their own choices. My phone buzzed with a text from my mother. "Proud of you today. Handled that multi-vehicle accident like a pro. Dinner this Sunday." I smiled and texted back, "Absolutely, love you, Mom." Life has a way of coming full circle. Sometimes we need to lose everything to discover what truly matters. Sometimes we need to be broken to find our strength. And sometimes the greatest revenge isn't destroying those who hurt us, but becoming the person we were always meant to be. As I tell every new physician I mentor, your value isn't determined by your family name, your salary, or your specialty. It's determined by how you treat the patient in front of you when no one is watching, how you respond when integrity costs you something, and whether you can look at yourself in the mirror knowing you did the right thing. That's the lesson Marcus never learned. That's the lesson that cost him everything. and that's the lesson I carry with me every single day. Did you like this story? Which city are you listening from? Let's meet in the comments. If you enjoyed this story, you can support me by sending a super thanks so I can keep bringing more stories like this. Thank you so much for your sweet support. I'm looking forward to your comments on the story. On the screen, you can see 2 new life stories that I highly recommend. There's so much more on my channel. Don't forget to subscribe. See you in the next life story. With love and respect.